Welcome to the Encouragement Engineering Podcast, where we combat the negativity that inundates our daily lives with a positive perspective and positive action. Today's guest is Rob Kenney. Rob has an interesting story. See, after his father left him and his 7 siblings at the age of 14, Rob always wished he had someone to teach him the basics: how to tie a tie, jumpstart a car, unclog a drain, use tools properly, as well as succeed in life. But he and his siblings had to figure things out on their own. Now a father himself, Rob decided that he would help people out by providing how-to tips, along with practical life advice and the occasional dad joke. He created his YouTube channel, Dad How Do I, in March of 2020, and over the past year has amassed over 3 million followers. And now Rob has put those valuable life lessons and practical guides into a book that's part memoir, part DIY, part inspiration. And among some of the practical DIY instructions you'll receive is how to iron a shirt, how to repair a hole in the wall, how to mow your lawn, how to organize your bills, and how not to be so hard on yourself, and how to invest. One of the most inspiring stories to come out of the pandemic, Rob's insight on life, parenting, and faith bring about a great memoir with useful advice that will sure to be a hit come Father's Day. Already a viral success, Rob has been featured on outlets such as Today, Good Morning America, NPR, Tamron Hall, Inside Edition, and NBC News. So please welcome to the show, Rob Kenney. And Rob, thank you so much for what you're doing for our future of our society. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on. Hopefully I can live up to the expectations here. So yeah, it's been a year. I'll tell you what, trying to figure out everything that happened in our lives has been interesting. But I'm so grateful for the platform that I've been given to be able to help out in any way I can.
Well, if we can, let's tell people a little bit more. We mentioned it in your bio about your background. I mean, obviously this came through some life lessons. So if you could just give us a little bit of a background about some of those life lessons you had to learn the hard way, if you will.
Yeah, so I always go back to the fact that the only reason I even share it because I don't live there. We've all had something in our past. Some have been through more trauma than others, and so I can only speak for myself. And I came from a fractured home. I'm one of 8 kids, like you said, and I'm number 7. And my dad at the time came home, and without getting into spending 3 hours explaining the whole story, my mom wasn't able to take care of us, and my dad decided he was done raising kids, is how he put it. And so he said, either you older siblings are going to have to take in the younger siblings, or I'm putting them in foster home. Pretty cold-hearted, and I share that a little bit about that in the book because, as a 14-year-old, and obviously we knew we were dysfunctional because there was a time where we were living at home, and my mom wasn't there, and my dad he'd met somebody else, and so he would load us up with groceries and he'd be gone for a week, and we were just coping, kind of, okay, I guess this is what life is like now, not really, no judgments necessarily, but just wondering, man, this is just trying to figure out life. And so so when he did that, thankfully my brother Rick took me in, and I went to live with him and his wife Karen, newlyweds.
Wow.
They were married in October, and I came to live with them. Rick's 23 and Karen was 24, and I came to live with them in January, just a few months after they. And not only that, but we come from humble beginnings, and so they had bought a trailer, 8 by 35 trailer, and so the quarters were tight. There wasn't a whole lot of places to hide, and so. So I feel for them also, looking back as an adult of what that must have been like for them. And and so my bedroom was, my brother built a shelf and put a bed in, and that was my my bedroom. But again, I don't live there by any means, because my main reason is to try to encourage people, and to go past it. You can't do anything about the past. Let's move forward, because if you keep dragging the past to the future, and I overuse this joke, but it's so true from The Lion King, where Rafiki hits Simba over the head, you know, with a stick, and what was that for? Doesn't matter. It's in the past. You know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's so true. You know, you just can't do anything about the past. All you can do is, you know, try to help figure out what the future looks like.
And that's a good reminder for a lot of people that are listening, because so many times we carry that past with us. We all have things that occur in our life, but it does make us stronger. I mean, it made you stronger to learn skills that maybe you would have learned anyway, but you had to do it a lot quicker. That built up your strength. It built up your strength to be able to share it, your knowledge to be able to share it, your understanding of those that may not have those skills, how they need them. That growth you can get from these events in your life is greater than the event, I think, itself. How do you help people out? I mean, give us some examples of the encouragement. I mean, obviously ironing shirts, that's okay, it's a necessary thing. Fixing a hole in the wall. You know, if you're gonna own any type of home, whether it's even renting, you got to be able to fix things. So it's exciting that you're doing this, because there's so many skills that I think our younger youth need to realize are vital in our society. Share us with some of that encouragement that you share with people.
Yeah, you know, I share in my book about my sister Lori and how she's a big encourager. She's always been, and you know, and on my part of my book is I share a character trait of each of my siblings that I learned. And since we're
Okay.
talking about courage, I got to talk about Lori, because Lori was, you know, and she still is. She took that to heart, where it said, you know, where our parents said, you know, our parents started well. So,
Yeah.
and, you know, they always had that phrase of, you know, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything. And my
Right.
sister Lori, I've seen her many times when people are saying stuff that, you know, maybe is a little hurtful. Lori just keeps her mouth shut and kind of like, let's try to steer the the conversation a different way. So I think it's, you know, courage is such an interesting thing. And I used to teach Sunday school at my church, and I used to write the word courage on the board.
Hmm.
And then I'd put the prefix N or this, you know, and you think about the word courage, it's, it's an amazing thing, right? Even
Yeah.
the word courage almost
Yeah.
gives you courage. I got courage to face this. And then if you think about as an outside influence, you can either encourage or you can discourage. Which one do we want to be? You know, I mean,
Right.
obviously, if somebody has bad behavior, that's a different thing where you're trying to discourage that. But as far as if somebody's trying to, you know, learn something new or trying to, you know, better themselves, or, you know, we need to do the best we can to encourage people, you know. And I did a video on that, and I shared, you know, about the man in the arena. I love that quote, because you know, the Teddy Roosevelt quote of
Oh yeah.
the critic not counting. You know, the
Yeah.
critic really doesn't count. And for far too long in my own life, I let the critic count for something. You know, people, oh, you can't do that. Oh, but what about this? Oh, but what about that? And kind of poking holes in your dreams. You know, I think it's good to have faithful friends that will walk alongside you and tell you, hey, maybe, you know, I know you want to be a singer, Rob, but your voice is horrible, you know,
Right.
so sorry, you know. You know, so I think it is helpful to have, you know, you just got to consider the source, because it's easy to be a critic.
Right. And I think, yeah, our society definitely shows us how to do that, which we don't need. But it's interesting what you're doing is you're showing them true things. These are skills you're going to need one time or another in your life, sooner or later. And you're doing that encouragement. You're showing them, here's how you do it. That brings that you're doing it over video, which is great, because that helps cement it into people's minds first, and then they can see it again, and then they could physically do it, so that you're covering 70 to 80% of the learning capability with audio, kinesthetic, and action all into one, for, like you said, to encourage people, to show them the value of that skill.
Yeah, and I try to, you know, people early on tried to pigeonhole me that I was just helping young boys. Well, you
Yeah.
know what? I'm trying to encourage and empower anybody and everybody that needs help with
Right.
something. So we have a safe place. Come on in. Let's learn something together. And yeah, because I think, and I share in my book, you know, about the first time I had to build a fence. I
Right.
didn't really know what I was doing, you know, but as you do something, you're like, hey, if I broke that down into smaller pieces, I was able to, and just take it slow, take measurements, get your level out,
Right.
a big part of anything is making sure it's level,
Yeah.
if you don't have your level on you, it's like, how come that looks so, if you
Yeah.
just
You
level,
don't want to find that out when you're done.
yeah, exactly. A level is huge. And if you take it slow and you get your posts, make sure they're level, and then
Yeah.
you kind of build around it, and kind of, a similar thing in your own life. Just take it slow and make sure you're building a foundation that, you can kind of build around.
You bring up a good point with that, taking it slow, because I think our society today is a microwave society in a crockpot world. We've got to remember to slow down and let the meat get tender and let our mind understand what we're doing. It's a great point in doing that, because I've been there when, first time I built a fence too. Yeah, I didn't have a level, and one of the posts was crooked, and then you go to screw in the nails of the hole. Wait, they don't line up. You get one screw in, and you need 3 more. And it's like, no, oh man, and then you have to adjust.
Well, a little
So,
bit of planning. I mean, so even
yeah.
another thing, again, slowing it down. So when I built the fence, another hint I give is, for me, I built a cedar fence, right? And so when you're doing the lengths, you cut it, you make it just a little shy of 8 foot. So that way you got some wiggle room, if you make it not, 8.5 feet, you got to buy a much longer, and then it starts looking wonky. So if you keep, you got some wiggle room. So you just, again, a little bit of planning. So you're paying attention as you're going. It saves you a lot of grief. I still make stupid mistakes too. And I go, I forgot, because I don't do it every day. If I was
measure twice, cut once. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's always interesting, because that's another thing to help our not only our youth, but anybody that's needing it, like you said, is take that time and understand what you're going to do. It doesn't matter what it is, saving money, paying off bills, your credit. What does that really mean? What is that for? All those scenarios, because you get involved with third party, they don't care who you are. You're like a dad to everybody, because you're caring. You've been through that scenario. You understand what that will cause, the effects of it, cause and effect of it. But the vendors, they don't care. The credit card companies don't care. If you're late, you're late. You're getting fined. You're getting, payments put, more cost involved in it.
I share, so I actually share in my book, and I'm trying to, get people to grow too, because and think outside of the box. Because one of the stats that I have is 4 out of 5 people live paycheck to paycheck in our society. And, I just got to be careful with that, because I got to be sensitive to the fact that there's people that are in very, very difficult circumstances, and they're just doing anything they can to get by. So, let's put that segment aside and maybe say that's, even to be generous, probably maybe 10% of the people. But what about the other 70? If with a little discipline in America, you've got great opportunity, and, we pay our taxes without even thinking about it. Let's put that on automatic, where you're putting away $25 a month, $50 a month, stretch it out, whatever. With a little discipline, you can relieve some stress in your life. It's a shame. Again, I can't speak for across the world, because everybody's in different situations, but I have to believe we could do better if we taught our kids to, hey, set aside a little bit for a rainy day, and then you're going to relieve some stress on your family. If you decide to have kids and all that, let's, try to rethink it, and don't act like this is the norm. It doesn't have to be the norm.
No, it goes back to that idea of look at this in the long term. I was helping my son's girlfriend go over health insurance plans. They hand her this packet, say, pick one by Monday. Okay, she's 20 some years old, doesn't really understand it. Well, they don't take this out of my check, but I said, but understand the bigger effect. I said, you may not use it right today, right now, but what if you get into one of these examples they give you? Look at your cost if you do this one, or you have 2 different choices. And, the one you have to pay a little more for gives you better options, but you got to explain that understanding of, don't look at it right now. And the same thing with savings is, right now it doesn't look like a whole lot you may be saving. but over the course of the year, 2 years, 3 years, that will build, that will grow. And then, like you said, it, help your family in a situation they may be in, or if your car fails, you can pay for that repair, because
Right.
cars fail, tires
Yeah.
blow out,
Plan for it, right? Because it's
Right.
going to happen, right?
Yeah. So in helping people to do that, I think is a great aspect, to slow down a little bit, encourage the idea that you can do it. I think you do a great job with that. So congratulations on that. And the planning and the growth, the personal growth. How do you, I mean, you're going into some other topics. It's not just home improvements, et cetera, like that, but some of the other things you go into, like you said, financial planning, or not financial planning, but savings. What are some other things you help people with?
Yeah, in the book or on my channel? So
both. Let's go with both. Let's fill them all in.
My channel, I've read some children's books too, and I've done some dad chats too, where I talk about, your attitude and how you're in control of that. Again, I think a lot of times what happens, we get so busy, in America, especially. I think we got so many distractions, everything coming at us, and it's like, oh, I'm just doing the best I can to, okay, let's stop, give yourself 10 minutes to breathe.
Yeah.
And think, just think about the choices that you're making, and hey, okay, so an attitude, I actually do have control over my own attitude. It's there's a Chuck Swindoll quote that talks about, it's, a big part of it is within my control, right? But we don't stop to think that. We think I'm just a jerk, and if somebody's going to yell at me, I'm going to just yell back. Well, you do have control over how you react to things, and so I think that's important. I also talked about integrity too, because it scares me a little bit with the fatherlessness in our society, and what's out there on the internet, what's a click away compared to when you and I were younger. I think a little older than you, but you never know. But you used to go to the anyway, you had to search things out a little bit, more.
It was a manual process. Now
it's a click away, and you fill your head with garbage is going to come out, and so that scares me a little bit about the future of our kids, because I want to protect them the best that in whatever way I can, so that people again stop and think. Let's stop and think about, we get so busy doing all these things. Like you talked about long term, we just visited my wife's dad passed away 13 years ago, and we went to the cemetery to spend some time there. And boy, if you look around, if you stop and you look, and it's he was in the military, so it's very well done with all the gravestones, but those are all lives. Boy, if you sit there and think about that and just try to get your head around it, man, those are lives that were lived, and they're not here anymore. And so I think for us, we need to stop and realize, man, you're not going to be here. I think we tend to think that we're going to live forever, or, but death is coming for all of us. And so I think it's important to slow down and remember that, because you're not guaranteed tomorrow even.
No, you're definitely not. And it's always interesting, because I remind people of that. Death, taxes, and change are the three constants you're guaranteed in life. We're all going to end up in a box, big or small, on the way out. So it depends on what you want. But
it's sobering, but it's healthy. It's good, because I share in the book too about the American pickers. I love the American pickers, but it's interesting. You watch those guys, and they go and they see some 90-year-old man that has a motorcycle in the back, that he's going to restore someday, and he can't let it go, because he thinks he's going to get to it. And it's like, dude, you're 90, you can barely walk, and you still think you're going to fix that. I mean, I understand it, because I have projects, but sometimes you got to kind of, okay, what is the reality? What is the probability of me actually fixing that thing, rather than let somebody else have it?
Yeah, and it's not in front of their face all the time. It's usually, like you said, a barn in the back of the property that's 20 acres, and they don't see it.
They forgot they had it. Exactly. Until somebody reminds them. I do the same thing. I'm like, oh, this shirt. That's
why I only have 2 pairs of shoes: a tennis shoes and a dress pair of shoes. I don't complicate my life.
That takes some discipline.
Yeah. It keeps the decisions to a minimum,
Yeah.
But and that's always, you encapsulated a couple things there, because our herd society is going 900 miles a minute. Like you said, everything's coming at you like this. Take a second and stop and think of that effect of now, which most of the time you don't need it now. And I always love when people say, sleep on your decision or pray about it first before you make a big decision. Just to your point, stop and take that time. It makes a big difference, because you'll start to weigh out other options. You'll see the different options. Your eyes will open up a little bit too. Okay, I didn't see that when I was first, because you were so excited about the red car. But wait a second, the payment on that is, take a minute and really get to understand it. So
yeah, I had a video on that talking about shiny things, and there's so many things that I use that term because there's so many things. A car, getting good at golf, or looking at things you shouldn't be looking at, whatever. There's so many shiny things that men in particular, I'm sure women too, but it seems to me like it applies more to men, I guess, because I'm a man. I guess that's what I think.
We know where it's shiny.
Yeah, that's right. Squirrel.
Yeah, exactly.
After it. But it's yeah. So I do try to encourage people to slow down and think long term about your decisions. I think that's so important. I try to have alone time every morning to pray and spend some time with the Lord. And I don't always do it. I share it in the book. I don't want to act like this is a legalistic thing, but I've found over my life that when I do that, it really, just that short amount, even if it's 5 minutes, or, try to make it a half hour, read a little bit, and just kind of think about, going into the day, then it kind of puts things in a perspective that, okay, I can face the day now. So
I definitely understand that scenario. I do the same thing, and it's that grounding first thing in the morning with some great word and some great ideas that just get your mind in the right direction is a great way to start the day. And you can bookend your day by doing the same thing. 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, 20 minutes a whole day. I mean, why not? Why not?
Makes a huge difference. It really does. It's all about that slowing down, like I said, because we get so busy doing that. Meanwhile, your life is passing by, and it's like, and I used to share in Sunday school too, the kids to, learn as much as you can, as early as you can. So, because you don't want to get to the end of your life and go, I kind of lived my life wrong. I want to make sure I understand what I think is, my perspective on the world, and, where I'm heading when I die, and, all that stuff. Do the best. And we should, I share this too, that, we should compare notes. It's, it's sad that we don't. Because we're all humans trying to live this life and doing the best we can. We should be able to go, well, and then another thing I share too is, at the end of the day, we can have a debate, but really you've got to live with your decision to say, I don't want to believe that. Well, if you don't want to believe it, but it's still true, then what? You're just kind of kidding yourself, because at the end of the day, you're still going to die. We're all going to die. And so I think it's important to flush that out and talk about it, so that we can, because it changes, again, how you live.
And it's interesting you say that, because my father was a World War II vet, and that generation didn't talk a lot about the, if you will, touchy-feely type things. You grind it out, you did it, you got a pat on the back, not a whole lot of huggy-feely type scenarios. But they also kept things close to their chest, and they didn't do that sharing. And so that idea of being able to talk to others that have, are doing similar things you are, and comparing notes, that's a great concept that we can do today. And you can do it on scenarios like this, a video chat across the world. I'm on podcasts across the world. It's an opportunity to be able to share that knowledge we have and compare our notes with each other. So great reminder.
Yeah, I think it's the most compassionate thing we can do, and is to try to, I just think it's, going back 20, 25 years, I share this in the book too, about investing in mutual funds. I happened to just have a friend that knew it, and he turned me on to this guy who had a radio show, and his Don McDonald, Money Matters with Don McDonald.
Okay.
And I used to listen to him as I would drive home at night, and I was like, oh, okay. And so I started learning a little bit from him, and then he talked about Morningstar, and you could go to the library, and you couldn't check it out to take it home. You have to sit there
Sit
and
there. Yeah.
now it's so easy. I
Yeah.
mean, I have a Fidelity account. My son has Vanguard. There's so many good ways you can invest. You go in there, man, you just click on a button and search, and you can. And I try to walk people through that because it is pretty easy. But I think a lot of people don't know it. They just don't know.
There's so much information, they can be overwhelmed.
Yeah, even my ghostwriter, as I was sharing that, he said, "Really?" I'm like, and he's a very intelligent, but you just not taught this stuff. And he says, "Oh, I just have a financial guy help me take care of that." And it's like, well, but shouldn't we educate ourselves so you make sure the financial guy isn't steering you wrong?
Right.
It's important to make sure you understand it at least. So,
And that's a good point too, because I think that's where, even if you're not going to, you bring up that knowledge, which is a great point, because you see it all the time in entertainment, right? Where the agent robs a guy blind, because why? They didn't follow up. They didn't understand what he was doing behind the scenes. Having a base knowledge of what you need to do is always helpful. As a business major in school and accounting, I got to know the numbers. I like the numbers. I understand the money scenarios. So that's a aspect, that I enjoy, and I'm going to look at the numbers. They're not emotional to me. They're just numbers. They can help me guide a decision one way or the other. You ask me to fix something on a car, I'm not going there. I take it to the guy that knows.
yeah.
But I have an understanding of, when the guy says, well, you need a new carburetor, and you're like, I came in to get my tires changed, you have some type of base knowledge, but you gotta, we all have to build that education, build our understanding of things. We don't have to be experts at it, but I think you bring up a great point of at least have an understanding of it.
Yeah, well, and so you brought up another good point that I always try to share. I'm not a mechanic, I'm not a plumber, I'm not an electrician, but I know how to fix a few basic things, around the house so that I can get by, so that I don't have to call them anytime I need help. But if I'm gonna, people even said, "Dad, show me," they call me Dad, right? So, Dad, show me how to rewire my house. We're not going there.
Call the electrician.
Or become an electrician yourself. Then you can do it. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna get out of what I know how to do, but I do know how to do some basic things that I can pass along to you as a homeowner to keep you from having to call a plumber or an electrician every time there's an issue. Even showing people the circuit board or the
breaker box.
The panel. Even that, if you don't know, if you didn't have somebody to help you, well, this is, if your lights don't work, check here first.
Exactly.
That just something tripped and you had too much stuff being drawn so it's actually a safety feature, and that's why it's here. So.
Yeah. And it's always interesting when people say, well, how did you learn how to do that? Because I do all my own home improvements. And the reason I do that is because I had to. I was living on my own very early in life. I couldn't afford to have a guy come and put up a wall. Or if I wanted to, fix the wall, I couldn't just call a drywall guy. They were, $50 an hour or whatever. Learn to do it yourself. It's a lot easier for the material, your time, your learning, you grow. I've replaced 3 or 4 kitchens in houses I've owned. And it's not easy, but it's cheaper than 30 grand.
Right. Well, and a big part of that too is know your limitations. That's what I've tried to share people, because I don't want people to get so overconfident that they rip apart their bathroom and then, when are you going to put that bathroom back together?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I'm still, 6 months later, you're down one bathroom.
Yeah.
Which can be a problem, especially if you only have one bathroom. But I think it's important to, again, hire a plumber. I redid my bathroom, but I did the tile, I did the sheetrock. I did some basic wiring too. But the plumbing, I'm not gonna mess with plumbing because it can be.
You want it to go.
I want it to all work.
Yeah.
I hooked up the faucet and stuff afterwards, but I had him run the plumbing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always a good idea when you get into the bigger stuff. Have the professionals take care of that. I'm looking at a roof, and I'm not doing that. In Florida, it's hot, and I'm not sitting on a roof trying to do that in the heat. It just get somebody that knows what to do.
I've done some roofing just to know how to do it, but you got to weigh, and I've I've shared changing my own oil. Now honestly, and people, I've gotten pushback on this. You should still change it. Well, by the time you buy the oil, you bang your knuckles trying to get that oil filter off.
Right.
You got to recycle the oil. There's a lot of things, and then I can go to Firestone Complete Auto Care and get it for $30.
Right.
So I just don't see that that's a good use of my time. Although there's an accomplishment factor that you got to weigh in. It is kind of satisfying when you do it yourself. It's kind of like, I did that.
Yeah.
So if you want that experience, I did do a video on showing how to change your oil as well. But originally I wasn't going to, because my advice to my own kids, and that's how I try to talk to people on my channel, is my advice to my own kids is, I don't think it's a good use of your time. I think, by the time you do it, and anyway.
Well, and that's, the fact of that use of your time, that weight of it, that knowledge of it, sometimes it does take you 3 to 6 times longer than if a professional did it for $30. Go get it done. It's done. And we don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry. You don't have to put the sticker over that little bright light that keeps coming up that says, "Hey, your oil needs to be changed."
Oh, don't do that.
No, exactly. So, and what is the age range of who you help? I'm assuming it's all over the board.
It is, and it's all over the world too, which is pretty, encouraging to me. Again, I had no idea, and I'm sticking to this story because it's true. When my daughter and I worked on this channel together when we first started, and thought I'd help 30 or 40 people, and even if I could help one person, I thought it would just be something, that I was trying to put all this knowledge that I have that I can pass along in one place, so you can learn how to do a lot of different things, and then also try to share some wisdom that I've learned over the years too, not only showing how-tos, but then we branched off. And so we branched off into the book, reading children's books as well, but now the lives too. We had a live the other night, a week and a half ago, and boy, it's amazing where people are from. Philippines, just all over the place. So, and the time zone difference too, amazing that they're there. It was a 5 o'clock Pacific time, and people were there from all over the world. That's pretty amazing. And then the age is, it's all over the place. It's I've had people as old as 80 saying they're coming not necessarily to learn something, but because they miss their dad, and they're having these emotion of just missing their dad, watching me shave, or I've had people bawling watching me tie a tie. I thought I was showing you how to tie a tie. Little did I know, it's resonating on this completely different level, where the care of a father, just trying to pass along the knowledge, is resonating different with people as well.
And that's a great piece to remember, is your message can be bigger than you ever imagined it to be. And, you're doing that.
Absolutely. It's been a year, man. And when it first happened, when I first went viral in May last year, I was literally in my bed crying, because I was like, it was scary for me. I don't want to become famous. I didn't want to, this wasn't a new career move for me. I've been working at my job for 30 years, or right around 30 years now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I've been married for 30 years too. So
good for you. Congratulations on that too.
Thank you. So my wife and I, we planned well and did our best, and kind of was gonna, like an average American, retire in our mid-60s, and then, we had begun to travel a little bit. And so it was totally unexpected, and just trying to do the best that I can, and still, remain true to myself too. That's why, I do share in the book about my own faith, my personal journey of faith, and where I came from to where I'm at today, because I think I would be doing people a disservice if I said, look at me, I've got it all together. Well, I don't, I rely on the Lord daily. And again, talking about perspective, it's so important to be reminded of, and I love visiting the ocean, I love to go to the ocean and sit there, because it reminds you of how small you are. You start thinking you're something, man, one of those waves could just take me away.
Right. And you think about the depth and what's in there and everything like that. So, It's
Oh my
amazing.
goodness. It's so,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you look off as far as you can see and there's no land in sight, you know,
Right.
it's pretty amazing.
That's something. Well, Rob, where can people find out more about you, get more information about your upcoming book? That's coming out May 18th, right?
May 18th. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your, you're mentioning it.
Yeah,
So,
not a
you
problem.
know, lately we've poured so much time into it. You know, I poured so much time into it last year or so. Now in conversations with my kids or whatever, oh, well, that's in my book. I was like, oh, Dad, all right, man, in your book, okay. But
Not a plug, you know.
well, I mean, it's not, I'm not trying to, but it's like,
Yeah,
oh, I talk about that in my book.
yeah,
But it's true because it's kind of my story, and it's so it's like, well, you know, the reality is I did share a story that fits. I'm not trying to work it in. It
yeah.
fits what we're talking about. Yeah. So I have a website called I had to come up. Somebody actually had the dadhowdoi.com. So it's dadhowdoiofficial.com. And
Yeah.
then my daughter set it up to where when you go there, there'll be a pop-up and it'll take you to where you can buy a signed copy from
Oh,
a
cool.
local independent bookseller, Queen Anne Books in the Seattle area, or you can buy a regular copy too through another. There's multiple links there that will take you to be able to buy it.
Great, great. And also, you also have the YouTube channel, of
I have
course.
my YouTube channel too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah. So we're actually on multiple platforms now. So yeah, it's just Dad, How Do I? Just look up Dad, How Do I on YouTube. And then we're on Instagram too. And my Instagram's been blowing up for some reason lately. And then my people keep thinking I'm from Chicago, though. You know, I was on a Chicago TV show early on, and so people put two and two together and came up with six and have me in Chicago, but I'm actually in the Seattle area.
Right.
Yeah, so I have my YouTube channel, then we have Instagram, and then we also have Facebook, and that's been, yeah, growing like mad lately too.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations on what you're doing. Thank you so much for doing this for our future of our world, because it's I think it's greatly needed. Our schools need the help, the
Yeah.
guidance, the reminder. And I really appreciate what you're doing, because I know it's so needed around, just to share like you are doing. And that's a great thing you're doing. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for continuing to encourage our world. So Rob, thanks so much for being on the Encouragement Engineering podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Glad to be able to share what knowledge I have. You know, it's limited, so it'll you know, do the best I can to, yeah, not overstep my bounds, trying to, yeah, share what I do know rather than pretend I know more than I know.
Well, you're doing a fine job of it. So thank you for your modesty and your enlightenment.
Thank you.
All right.